Hello and well met. This is Layron with the Fantasy Grounds Academy. Today I'm going to take a little sneak peek at Tales of the Valiant, the new rule set that has been put out by Smiteworks Fantasy Grounds. Just as a kind of a forewarning that this release is really new. If you are using Tales of the Valiant now, there may be some little quirks and bugs and stuff. So if you find anything like that, please report it on the Fantasy Grounds forums or in the official Fantasy Grounds Discord. Now, this is a brand new rule set. They just adapted it over the last, several months. It took a while, but now it's finally here. But I am noticing some reports that there are some minor issues that need to be worked out. So if you are one of those and you're frustrated with it, just go to the forums, and there's a new thread that Derek has set up recently, and it is for Tales of the Valiant. So it kind of has its own area to basically start a new thread for reporting. So this is the new area for that, and if it's in its own game system category. And then if you come into here, there's a thread called Tales of the Valiant Bug Report. So if you need to do that, just reply to this link, give any of your related steps, any of that stuff. So it's so new that personally, I would wait until some of the bugs are worked out before I start a full-on campaign. And then I don't know what the support's going to be like for the legacy content. So for the time being, I just have the player's guide and I have the Monster Vault. So those are the two things that I'm going to be looking at. And I'm only going to be taking a brief look. I don't want to do any spoilers or try to figure out how to do character creation. I tried doing some last night, and there's some caveats that you should understand before you start. So I'm going to actually exit this session and show you what the steps that I went through. So I'm going to go ahead and exit and go back to the launcher. So in the launcher, you want to create a new campaign. I would call it Tales of the Valiant Test or whatever you want to call it. So I don't know if I would necessarily start a full-on campaign just yet. Maybe give it another week or two, so that in case there's any bugs and such, I wouldn't want to have that drama if I was starting a new campaign. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Load Campaign because I've already created one. So this is the test that I created. This is my select campaign. I did ToV underscore 5e test. It's not really 5e, but it's close enough. And then when you first start this, you're going to have to select the 5e rule set. And then you want to select setting Tales of the Valiant. Now, if you've got a bunch of extensions, I don't think you would want to use most of those. And then come up here to this filter and go to setting, and it will narrow it down to Tales of the Valiant, so you don't have to scroll through. And then I also activated a theme by Voz. So this is the theme that I was showing earlier. This is the Fantasy Grounds Academy free theme. I thought it went really well. It complements the ToV rule set, so I thought that was kind of fitting. So I went ahead and posted that. So as I'm starting this, I've also made this overlay. So for this video, I've actually got this graphical overlay. So if anyone's interested in that, I use the free assets that were given to us through the Kobold Press website. So if you go to their store, add it to your cart, it's free. And it's a bunch of graphics and artwork that you can use to create your own backgrounds and stuff. So that's what I use to make this overlay. And then what I'm going to do is probably post this put together piece at some point for free in one of the forums, so that if anyone wants to use this for streaming, they're welcome to do so. Or you can make your own if you get the asset. So it's kind of up to you how you want this to go. But essentially, this is the Tales of the Valiant's logo. I just added this to the theme. This isn't nothing. This is not a Tales of the Valiant theme, but it looks kind of like it would be. So anyhow, under modules, I went ahead and loaded up the Tales of the Valiant, and that's a Monster Vault, and then the Player's Guide. So those are some of the things that are included in the Kickstarter. If you were one of the fortunate ones to get in on the Kickstarter about a year ago, and now we finally got the Fantasy Grounds version with your license keys for this rule set. If you were a patron or a patron when the Tales of the Valiant Kickstarter was going, you'll get an email from Kobold Press, and you'll have to go through their website and click on their coupons and add them to your cart, and then they'll generate the keys for you, and then you actually go to the Fantasy Grounds website and you want to enter those in the Fantasy Grounds website. So it kind of is a 2-step process, maybe 3 steps. So in the Fantasy Grounds area, if you go to store, at the bottom there's activate a product key, and that's where you'd put in those keys that you're going to get from Kobold Press. Now, the account that you use has to be linked to or it has to be the same email address that you use for your Kickstarter. So if you're wondering why it doesn't match, make sure you're logged into the correct account on Kobold Press. So if you don't have a email address that's associated with Kobold Press, the one that you use for your Kickstarter, you're going to have to make an account there so you can claim your keys. So that's part of the instructions there. So that's something that I went across. Luckily, I do have a couple accounts on Kobold Press, which is confusing to me because I was actually logged into my other account, so that was kind of annoying. But nonetheless, there is instructions in the email that you'll get from your backer kit that will tell you how to activate that. And the main thing is that you select the 5e rule set, and then when it pops up, you get this pop-up thing after you've made, and you got to also make sure you enable the Tales of the Valiant extension, because it's kind of a override type thing on top of the 5e rule set. So once you have that loaded, you want to check in your settings to make sure that you have the Tales of the Valiant selected in your options. So if you accidentally click 2024 or the classic, or we should say it's not classic anymore, I guess they call it the legacy, but the game rule set version, you want to make sure that this is set to ToV, and it should do that. But when you get that initial pop-up, it's assuming that you're using a 5e rule set. So the Tales of the Valiant extension overrides those, so you want to make sure that that's correct before you do anything else. And then, of course, you set any of your other extensions. As far as the dice goes, I just use a paid dice, and then I just themed it for the colors of the Tales of the Valiant logo. So I just went into the dice themselves, and I just captured this gray color and then the blue outline for Tales of the Valiant. That's how I made these dice. So you can use the color of anything you want to create themed dice. So I kind of have some theme color dice for the rule set that kind of matches what we already have. And you don't have to have matching dice, but this is just so you know what I'm doing, and it's not a bamboozling you here. Okay, so this background decal, I added this manually myself, so this wasn't part of anything that other than grabbing some of the assets that Kobold Press provided and added those in to my own custom decal. So you do that here in your options, and you can set your background decals from here, or better yet, if you're going to do a custom one, you go to your assets and you go to images, and then you click on folder, and then I made a subfolder called decals, and then I went ahead and put my decal in here. Now I had to shrink this down because the original one's too wide. It almost goes across the entire screen. So I shrunk this down to about 1500 horizontally, just so it'll kind of fit in the pocket and not to be too wide. Because before I did this, it was all the way over to past the combat tracker. All right, so let's take a look at the content. So once you have the books loaded, this is the player's guide, and if you click on, this is the actual the book, or we used to call it reference manual. So this is the basic book. It starts right away with character creation and leveling. So I advise you kind of look through this a little bit before you start building characters, because I tried to build the character kind of the old way with a drag and drop. It worked pretty good, but I had some issues, so I got to report those if I see those again. I might do a character creation video in the future, but I want to wait a while until more of the bugs are fixed. And then you can kind of go through this, basically all this content for character creation, I would look through that. You don't have to read every little bit of it, but kind of get an idea of the flow and what the rules say. Also, I kind of started a character. I might continue building this, but you'll notice some subtle changes here, almost like the 2024 5e edition. So you'll see lineage here instead. And then there's a thing called talents. That's another thing that's a little different. And I recommend only using the base rules for now, because I don't know how much of the Kobold Press character creation stuff is compatible. So if you're going to use anything that's legacy from Kobold Press, I think adventures will be pretty safe. I'm not positive, but if you use like an adventure, that shouldn't be too much craziness, because you want the assets, the maps, locations, monsters. But when it comes to building characters, I'd probably wait a while and see what's going to happen there. But these are some of your talents here. And then you also have lineages, which is similar to race, or D&D folks call it species. But here you have the beastkin, dwarf, elves, humans, kobolds, orcs, the small folk, and the Sidarian. So these are their heritages, basically. And you can essentially input your own if you know what you're doing. I would probably wait a little bit longer just to see how everything kind of pans out. But for now, I'm just kind of checking out the rule set. I'm not in a big hurry, just trying to see and feel and kind of get an idea of what's going on. But you can use the character wizard on this. I saw people trying to use it. They were having some issues with it. I don't know exactly the extent of it, but I was using drag and drop when I tried it. It seemed to work pretty good. They want you to do your class and then your ability scores and your background and lineage, and there's a certain order to it. But I was kind of in a hurry, just kind of taking a sneak preview last night before I did the show. So anyways, this is just a preliminary look through, and I wanted to take a look at the artwork that comes in the monster vault, which is what I'm really excited about, to be honest. So if I go into books, this will show me the books that I have loaded in library. Instead of going through your modules and then clicking on the module and then clicking on the book or the reference manual, you can just access them straight through books. So I'm going to go to the Monster Vault. And then from here, I kind of want to check out just some of the creatures. So there's monsters A through Z. And I guess if you click on these and you click on this actual image here, you're going to get the tokens, and you'll see the little assets pile here. So that's all been done, that's got to be a lot of work. And then if you come down through here and you start looking at these NPCs, you have an appendix that has different alphabetized orders. You have humanoids, which is cool. They have an index here for what types of specialties, traits, and actions that they have. And then there's creatures by terrain, which I think is a really cool way to sort things. I kind of wish some of the other rule sets, such as 5e, would do this, because this is kind of cool that they have it by terrain type, which is kind of cool. So there's any terrain, then they have Arctic. So that's kind of cool. I like that sorting. I don't know if it was sorted that way in other rule sets, but I do like that sorting method. So this is the Tales of the Valiant Monster Vault that I'm looking at right now. And it looks like they have some rules on how to use the monsters, and then calculating your, for encounter building. So they got a little bit of rules for that, which is kind of cool. And they have, explaining how to get different encounter difficulties. So yeah, really neat. So I want to take a look at a couple of the art pieces from here. So I want to close this because this is actually the rule book. And I'm going to come over here to images and see what they look like in Fantasy Grounds from this point of view. And I'm going to sort to the Monster Vault. And let's take a look at the animated armor. Oh yeah, it looks pretty sharp. So yeah, I like the artwork. It looks pretty decent. It's not bad. Let's look at a basilisk. Oh yeah, that's super cool. So they did a nice clean job. I don't see any white spots on here, so that looks good. And it looks like you'll be able to use this with the 3D assets if you're going to place them on a map and such, so that's going to look good. Yeah, so far it looks pretty good. I give it maybe like a B. You know, nothing's perfect. To get an A would take a lot, and it certainly wasn't the the 5e rule set for the new 2024 was certainly not an A either. I would give Pathfinder 2 probably close as you're going to get to an A as far as a grade goes. But this is a B, strong B here. You know, like I said, you will find errors when you're building characters initially. There's probably some things that got scrambled and mixed up and links that are missing and such. So if that's the case, report it on the Fantasy Grounds forums, because that's the only way it's going to get fixed. Just ranting about this stuff on Reddit and on Facebook, and it's not going to do anything but just make people pissed off. So I would just report it on there if you can, and then, or if you have to, you can fix it yourself if you know what you're doing. But technically, you've already invested in it. You want it fixed. So if you want that, report that on the Fantasy Grounds forums. But anyhow, folks, this is just kind of like a preliminary look at the rule set. I'm not going to do any tutorials or anything like that for at least for about a month, because I went through that with the Player's Handbook 2024 version. And, you know, if I would have waited a couple weeks, it would have been better off, because I had a lot of little things that I noticed. So anyhow, folks, you guys take care, and you have a wonderful day. And just know that some of these tabs on the right-hand side are just slightly different, not much. You'll notice that the 5e rule set is very similar to Tales of the Valiant, and just a couple little name changes and some over here in the character section, you have talents and lineages now. So take care, folks. You have a good day, and hopefully that helps a little bit. Kind of gives you an idea what's a preview look at. And all this fancy stuff that I have going on here is not required. This is just kind of make it look good. But take care, folks.